All right, so let's talk about the displays. Now, technically, the Samsung on paper has the better panel. We're looking at anti-reflective coating, which definitely gives the iPhone 16 Pro Max more glare. We also have a technically higher pixel density on the Samsung, and we actually can get technically higher in the peak brightness. It also does have a technically more screen to the body ratio, meaning more screen, even if it's only 0.5%, it's something. We're getting technical here. We're getting down to the minute details here. However, there is something to note about the Samsung because of their newer anti-reflective technology they have placed on here. It doesn't have that over saturated, that very zingy color like it used to have. It's more of a toned down look, definitely still colorful, but not quite as in your face as it used to be, if you will. The iPhone still has very nice whites and very good overall color reproduction. And I do think these iPhone and Samsung phones are still very competitive in display. Some people are going to prefer the Samsung's specifications and look. Some people are going to prefer the iPhone. They really are quite neck and neck. One thing I do want to give a nod to Samsung though is if you scroll down here to display, they are giving you more to play around with in terms of screen resolution. And by the way, if you do pick up a S25 Ultra, it does come with Full HD Plus out of the box. So you are going to want to tweak that to QHD Plus if you want the highest resolution, although your battery will take a hit. When we go here to screen modes, you have the vivid mode, and you could crank this up to get more vividness, which is what I tend to do because I like a vivid display. Sometimes though, I like natural, especially at nighttime when I don't want it all in my face. But when people first seen the S24 Ultra, they thought that Samsung messed up the display because of the lack of vividness, but they've added the vivid mode, so now it's very vivid. Now the iPhone over here, because it doesn't have those anti-reflective properties, it does have what some people are going to think the color looks better. They're going to think the whites look better. They're going to think certain viewing angles of the phone look a little bit better, but that is to be expected because this has a little bit more glare. Again, it's going to be down to personal preference. I personally like the color reproduction. a little bit more on the iPhone right now, but I like the specs. I like the sharpness of the Galaxy. It's just got a sharper overall panel. When you get really close to the text, you can tell that the actual text is much higher density. And I like that it can get brighter than the iPhone 16 Pro Max outdoors. And I also like its less obtrusive punch hole up there. It's pretty close to an all screen. I would like to see that go away for a UDC that actually has pretty solid quality in the future. But at the end of the day, we have two smartphones here that are really going to impress in the display department, and they're both at 6.9 inches. But if I had to pick one, I think I'm going to go with the Samsung for the overall feature set, and all of the anti-reflective properties are just nice. They just are. Both of these aren't the highest PWM flicker rates though out there. You're gonna have to look to some phones like OnePlus for that, which basically don't even have any at all. So if that bothers you, I wouldn't recommend either of these phones. But both of them can get really, really dim. The iPhone can go all the way to 1 nit. With the Samsung, you could turn on extra dim and get pretty close to the same thing. So at nighttime, these things are a joy to use as you can really crank them down and not sear your eyeballs. And then during the daytime, when you hit sunlight, they can really crank it up. So very good variability within the brightness range and overall very strong displays. You also do have yourself like Eye Comfort Shield versus True Tone over here. In addition, you have extra dim modes. You can use an accessibility feature known as reduce white point to do the same basic thing on the iPhone. In addition, dark modes are available for both. Although I will say the dark mode does darken out more applications for the Samsung. So if you like dark mode, like within apps, more of them are darker. Whereas the iPhone, even Safari, still is bright at nighttime unless you use a third-party extension.